Hello, everybody. Welcome to Solo Spotlight, episode 55. I'm here with Matina Singh. Matina, how are you doing today?
I am wonderful, Ryan. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for coming on the show today. You are a coach and someone with lived in experience that is helping not only females, but males get through emotional hardships, specifically around divorce. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about that. I'm excited to provide my listeners with some playbooks or opening up these coaching strategies that are going to give our listeners some uh, active insights of whether or not they're dealing with this type of experience themselves or whether they're trying to support someone in going through that experience. And I kind of want to start it off and open up the world to kind of where this began for you and like what life looked like before you started this journey. Can you take me through that?
Oh, wow. What a beautiful question to ask to start with a journey that is very deeply painful. And it is wonderful to start there because that was my journey. That was how I lived life. That was how I was taught to live life as well. So I'm going to take you back to an evening where it's completely dark. I'm sitting on the couch in my living room. And I know my kids are peacefully sleeping upstairs. I'm safe, they're safe, we're happy, we have built this new home, but I'm still crying on the couch. So picture that for a second, sitting completely in the dark, crying because something inside of you is so completely disconnected. And that's how I felt. I felt disconnected from myself. And I didn't know what I was missing. I didn't know what else I was supposed to do because I had it all. I had the life where I had a great education. I was a good daughter. I tried to be a good wife. And I had a great job, great career going well for me. We had a home, we had cars, we had everything, if you will, in the terms of the world. And still, even though the family was such a happy picture on the outside, inside it was broken. And I never spoke about my failure or how I felt truly inside of my marriage because, especially as an Indian girl, I was taught and raised like you always keep the dirty laundry inside, you figure it out at home, you don't tell it and share with anyone else. And that's how it's supposed to be. So I didn't tell my parents about the troubles that I was experiencing until I was completely ready to leave him.
Right.
So it became a shock to them as to, okay, what's going on? Why didn't you tell us before? How come this is coming up now? And I did all of these things to make sure that everything was in quotations perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel perfect. I feel my marriage is completely disconnected. I'm not connecting with him anymore. I have three wonderful children, but I feel so depressed. So I left him. And even though I left him, it wasn't a choice that I really wonderfully made. No
Mm-hmm.
one gets married with this idea of getting divorced in a few years.
Right.
So here I am, 1.5 years later, sitting in this dark in this living room, and I was so upset and grieving my marriage. I was grieving what I thought would be the perfect picture, but I didn't have that perfect picture. So I felt also selfish, and I also felt disconnected and disrespected in ways that I didn't know how else to deal with than leave.
Right.
Now, there are many people out there who can vouch two ways. One would be like, I tried everything, I tried to save my marriage, it didn't work out, and I left. And the other could be, Ride or die, this is my person. I will stay with them for the sake of family, for the sake of community, for the sake of my children.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't do that. So I had also guilt. So not only am I grieving, I'm also holding up this guilt that I'm feeling inside of me of not having the dad of my children in the same house as I am raising them.
Mm-hmm.
So when you sit with these heavy emotions and you feel so disconnected from yourself, there is no other way than to be like, okay, what else is possible for me now? And for me personally, Ryan, that was Tony Robbins.
Right.
Tony is such a powerhouse and was also a safe male figure that would resonate with what he said resonated with me deeply. It really hit home. And as it hit home, it made me question like, where have I been living? I don't even know what I want.
Mm-hmm.
I've been given this perfect idea, this box of life, where you have to have a good education, get a good job, get the right partner, have children, and now you made it in life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all of these elements are important parts of life. It's not life. What I wasn't taught, especially as a South Asian woman, is to think for myself. What do I like? What do I want out of life? Which experiences am I open to having right now? And which experiences do I want to step away from?
Right.
When you don't have that freedom, you get so stuck in this box and you get into this notion of pleasing everything and everyone around you.
That's interesting you say that because it over like the last 2 years, divorce rates have fallen, and it's interesting because it's like, is that a good thing, or is that people that are in situations like you're like that you were in, where it's like a societal pressure or a cultural pressure or like a loss of identity, and is this more of a worrying statistic than it is of like, oh, people are in marriages longer? Or is it the idea that people are feeling like they are kind of not necessarily trapped, but kind of they don't know how to express themselves, or they haven't found this identity because the world tells you like, well, you're in a marriage and this is for life, and what you're going to do is for your kids and for your family, and that's kind of what you have to settle for.
That's a great statistic. But if you go a few years back even more, you're going to notice that during COVID and even a few years after, the divorce rate had extremely heightened,
Right.
right? So you're going from a period of extreme to going back to where people are again consumed with all the outer world,
Right.
right? And like in my marriage, for example, I always heard my partner say to me like, "Oh, we're just going through a rough patch. Just a few more years, we're just going through a rough patch. It will be okay. It will be okay. It will be okay." And there's no lie when I say that there was a part of me that wanted to believe that. Even though I didn't see it, I wanted to believe it.
Right.
So, just like that, there are so many people right now who want to believe that their marriage is going to work, that it's just a rough patch.
What do you think the two biggest setbacks that you had when you decided to end this marriage were? And what did you how did you make it possible to get over those hurdles?
Mm. I think the biggest setback for anyone, it doesn't matter if you're divorced, if you're contemplating divorce, if you are in a happy marriage, the biggest thing is for you to ask yourself, what makes me happy? And not in this way as to, oh, vacation make me happy, or having this car or this big home make me happy. No, truly, your soul. What makes your soul so joyful that you can't contain yourself anymore?
Mhm.
I never asked those questions during my marriage. I didn't even know, stepping into my marriage, what I actually wanted out of that marriage. So there was not really a companionship for us both that we had decided and walked through and talked through for ourselves.
Mhm.
Right? There's so many different types of marriages, Ryan, where you have people who are in this open relationship, and they're home, they always come home together, but they have other partners, if you will. But that is an agreement that they have made.
Mhm.
It's not an agreement that I personally would sign up for, but it's an
Right.
agreement that these two people have signed up for. But at least they made an agreement.
Mhm.
I'm going to say and literally claim here that 70+% of marriages have no agreement as to how they're going to hold each other in that marriage.
Right.
I
Does that
can
take does that take a level of maturity though? Because a lot of times you see in today's society that like you have a lot of I I'm probably getting the pronunciation off, but i- infinizing or like people saying, "Oh, I never had the chance to be young. I never had the chance to live my 20s." Is do you think that's again, it is valid because like people aren't finding that identity, but what would that conversation look like? Because that might have been like a mistake on someone that was 20 years old getting into a marriage. So when you look at that, is that necessarily like a bad marriage or is that just people getting ahead of themselves?
I can resonate with what you're asking, because I too, at a point where I'm now, at that point I was 35 with 3 kids under 5, as a single mom,
Right.
and no family around because all my family is in Europe and I live in Canada.
Mhm.
So it was a difficult part, but there was a point in life at that time where it's like, who am I? I have never been allowed to live my life. So I too came into this victimhood mentality, whereas like I wasn't allowed. I had no time. I was always catering to something and someone else. But if you take radical responsibility for your own actions, you're going to recognize that even though I was doing all of those things, there was a part of me that wanted to do those things.
Mhm.
I didn't have a bad life. I had a great life. I have a great life. The only disconnect was I was never really speaking for myself. I was speaking as to what would be appropriate.
Mhm.
So anyone who is asking themselves right now, but I was never allowed in my 20s or my 30s to live my life and I don't know what I want, how amazing is it that you have the opportunity to discover that now?
Mhm.
You're not 80, you're not
Yeah.
90,
Yeah.
you still have life ahead of you. How amazing is it that you get to be like, okay, not this, more of that?
How did that internal dialogue look for yourself in terms of like switching that for yourself of like kind of seeing it more as like a blessing than like a kind of like a victimhood or like something where it's like why me instead of like embracing it. How did that change for you?
Well, it changed in the sense that I was like, I knew that there was more. There was this inner feeling like, no, this is not it. This is not it. This cannot be my life. There has to be more. I did not know what that more was, but it was this. So, the first, I'm going to say 1 to 2 years of my divorce, I was angry, I was sad, I was disconnected, I was depressed, I was grieving, and all of these heavy emotions kept me in this loop of victim.
Right.
This happened to me. This is what this person has said and done, and all of these things. Now, even though I didn't speak with many people, those people who were very close to me, they got to hear that story over and over and over again.
Hmm.
Until I realized, like, what I'm actually doing is I'm reliving the pain. And I can relive the same pain for the whole life. Or I can stop it right now and be like, okay, tomorrow is another day. It's a clean slate. Where do I go from here? And when I did not know where I was going from here, I delved into personal development. I started with Tony Robbins courses and different things, coaching and all of those wonderful things with his community. And I evolved into doing Mind Valley and other courses. And I have an amazing mentor right now. And always, always, always putting and pouring back into me,
Right.
which is completely separate from what I was taught. I was taught to serve everything and everyone else and catered lastly to me.
Hmm.
But that was a choice. That was a conscious choice that I got to make in that discovery phase of who I want to be.
And that kind of springboarded you to where you are now. So, like, the fact that you gave yourself room to learn was probably one of the biggest things, where you allowed yourself the ability to learn those things, which is huge, because I think a lot of times people hold themselves back because they go, I don't have the time, I don't have this, so it's this, it's that, it's the other thing, right? And once you started getting into that, the idea of coaching, what were some early things that resonated with you?
Wonderful question. I think the resonance really came from me allowing myself to sit with the discomfort of not knowing. See, our brain is wired in a way that it always wants to protect us. So if there's something that we don't know and something that doesn't sit right, if you will, we're going to go back to the things we knew. But if you are switching just a tad bit, you're allowing more perspectives, new insights to come in. So I remember this exercise where I had to make a list, I think, of not even 10, 15 things of what I liked and what I wanted to call into my life. I had a very hard time. I could write down all the things I did not want, but writing down what I wanted was difficult to me. And that's how most population lives. We say on a daily basis what we do not want. And when you have children, pay attention to them. They will oftentimes highlight for you what they want. So when we allow ourselves to be back in our own child self, our younger version of us, we will know what we want. And one thing that I did is at that moment is like I wrote down everything that I didn't want. And then I came to the opposite of each thing. So if I don't want that type of a house, what type of a house do I want? If I don't want this type of a partner, what type of a partner do I want? If I don't want this career, what type of a career would I like?
And it's very simple. It's a very simple thing, and it's so interesting that like it's how people get stuck in this idea of like wallowing or like self-loathing, right? Where it's kind of like, well, what, for every action there's an equal or greater reaction, right? So it's very interesting because it's right there. It's right there. And so now you get into this and you're learning this. And so what did your routine look like for healing now that you're learning these new things? So you talk about like articulating in a way. So like, did you start to develop like a daily routine for yourself, whether that be meditation, whether that be counseling? What did your daily routine look like before you started to form your own language of coaching?
There were a few big lessons for me. One was something that this phenomena where the five people we hang out with is the type of person we become, right? So who am I hanging out with? Am I hanging out with my friends who I'm always complaining about my ex about, and we're just continuing and repeating that cycle?
And then
Am
they're
I
just
hanging out?
enabling you.
Absolutely. Because what are you doing in that scenario? You're literally reliving that pain over and over and over again. And that does not allow you to grow out of it. And you do it both ways, right? It's not like you are repeating, the other person's enabling. Because both of you are stuck in something.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go from that scenario into a scenario, it's like, okay, no, I want to have 5 great friends that allow me to do new things, allow me to grow in this way and that way, and you choose that roadmap. So what I did is I immersed myself into Tony Robbins' world. And I made friends in his community. And I approached people who I perceived had so much more than I do. But by putting myself in those places that I felt personally I don't belong here, it allowed me to grow out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It
Had a
allowed
little bit of an imposter syndrome.
it's actually it's difficult. It's different than imposter syndrome. It's actually taking you out of this victim mentality, this trapped narrative that you're living,
Like
into
I shouldn't be
allowing you.
healing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you are literally lifetime healing, because the new friend that you believe is further ahead than you, that you are in this community with, is going to make you see different things that you haven't seen before. And that's happened for me. I had people who were bringing breathwork into my life. I had people who were bringing better questions in my life. I have a very dear friend of mine who is so beautifully spiritual, who was teaching and sharing all of his gifts spirituality wise. And I got to experience my life in different capacities. Mind Valley is great for that too, because when you choose to start a quest on that, you have a whole community that is doing the same. And the more you engage in that community, the more that you are going to grow with someone else. But when we have something that we can resonate with from another person's perspective, we are going to create more friends. So what that was a catalyst for me. I created wonderful friendships all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
The other catalyst for me was really truly going from this narrative of why me into, okay, this is a new day, let's go.
And how did that translate into like when my next question is about like staying grounded as well, right? Like how did these things translate into like your day-to-day operations as well, like raising your kids and having, employment and stuff like that? Was there things that you needed to have in place to make sure that you're still keeping yourself like back into like somewhat of a resemblance of like to keep like everything flowing, right? Because like a lot of times what you see is like when people get out of one thing, say if it's like a relationship that had like kind of like addictive natures, or like they were obsessed with that relationship, they could dive into something like this, and then all of a sudden they get like enthralled with that. And then it's like, how do you make sure that you still structure your life properly, and like you're not kind of letting go of personal responsibility, or making sure you're not stuck in a thought silo of sorts?
Oh my gosh, this is such a good question. I think that we have to really understand that there's no other person who has it better together than you. I'm going to say that again. There's no other person on this planet. Doesn't matter if they're making millions, if they have a happy marriage, if whatever they have, whatever you perceive they have, they're no better than you. They're a
Mm-hmm.
human being, as are you. They have the same senses as you do. But if you want to experience a difference, is how they're thinking, right? So throughout my coaching services and what I have learned into coaching for myself is like, what is the dialogue inside of my mind. So when
Right.
you talk about addictive nature and how I live my day-to-day life, it really depends on what is important for me today. So for now example, next week my kids are starting school, so we're having a lot of conversation when it comes to school. I'm making myself more available in this week for them so that I know that they are prepared in the right way. But there's also periods of time where they know, okay, mommy's going to be busy from early mornings to late nights. So today we have to manage. Today we get to do this. Today the dinner is already prepared in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Or we're being receiving this and that, right? Mothers have this amazing ability to multitask and pre-plan for weeks in advance.
Right.
I cannot say that I am perfect at it, which I absolutely don't aspire to be either, because perfect is a narrative that has been sold by society that doesn't allow me to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
I am one of those moms who will sit down with my kids and say, you know what, I made a mistake here. I shouldn't I should have approached it in this way, but I did in this way, and I'm so sorry that you felt this or went through that.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I do it that way is because I want to be honored in a way, so therefore I must honor them in a way.
Right. And having that transparency is, I feel like, so important, especially when you talk about young kids, and it really kind of like echoes the values that you're trying to share, right? Where it kind of goes, oh, then like it's okay to be honest, it's okay to be like forthcoming with mistakes. Whereas like I don't have to withhold things in terms of like a backlash or any sort of repercussion other than a thoughtful dialogue, right? Like
Right.
that's kind of the only responsibility.
But here's the very key thing to mention here is like, especially for divorced parents, it is very important that you understand that kids internalize. Mommy is not making time for me because A, B, and C. Daddy is not making time for me because A, B, and C. And it has nothing to do with the mom or the dad. They will always internalize with that there's something wrong with themselves.
Right.
Now, I've been divorced now for a decade. But that doesn't mean that my kids only faced divorce a decade ago. They are facing divorce at every different stage of life,
Right.
right? My daughter was a month when I left him. She could not comprehend what was happening at that time.
Right.
My boys were 4. They did not understand, but they could, in their own mind, easily think that there was something they did.
Right.
And where is that not true? Now, going into their life stages, now they're in their teens, they're going to have different thought patterns and they're going to grieve divorce in a different way again.
Mm-hmm.
So, whereas we as adults can face something once and then move on with our lives if we
Mm-hmm.
choose to, not everyone does, and I know that. Um, but we have that choice, that we have the ability to face that once and move. And I'm saying that we choose it once, but at key events, graduation, marriage, birth of a child, of course you're going to grieve it again because
Mm-hmm.
you wanted that for them.
Right.
Right? So as we as parents can grieve these big events, kids, for them the big event is different stages of life.
What strategies did you put in place with your own coaching in terms of how to handle co-parenting?
Co-parenting is a very tricky thing. When I look at, for example, my own, I'm going to come back to the answer, but I'm going to share an example with my own.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I had to experience is the other parent wasn't as involved as I am.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it leaves a gap for the kids. So it was very important for me to have open conversation with my children. How are you feeling? What can I put in place? At the very beginning, what I did do for them is I actually had a pillowcase made with a picture with them and their dad. And every night I would tell them, like, I know you didn't see him today, but he's right there next to you, sleeping with you. You can hug the pillow if you miss him. So I was giving them tangible things that will remind them of love is always here. Books is a great example too. I have read so many amazing books, and one of them that's coming up right now is The Invisible String, which is this narrative that it doesn't matter wherever the person that you love is, you can always hug yourself thinking that you're hugging that person and they will feel that love from you. So through a book, I again highlighted for them it's always available to you. Right? Again, different stages, different strategies. So it
Right.
also depends as to where your child is at. Now, that was my scenario. There are scenarios where both parents are very actively with their child. And when you both put the well-being of your child up the really forefront, like let's deal with our issues after, let's put what is important for our child first, and you can do that, there's nothing more celebratory than that for a child.
Mhm. That's
So
really interesting.
it's so when I coach people, I really ask them first, like, where is your relationship at? Can you communicate openly with them? Are they willing to hear you? Are you willing to hear them?
Mhm.
Are you coming from pain or are you coming from clarity? We might not have clarity in our relationship and what we're going through, but we always should find a way in finding clarity when it comes to kids.
Right.
So can you segregate that, right?
Yeah. It's really interesting too because a lot of times what I find I see in like my personal experience with friends and coworkers is that it almost becomes like a saboteur. It's like I'm sending one and it's like a ticking time bomb of like, "Oh, I'm gonna buy a gift that I know that this person already had," or you know what I mean? And like these little things to pit each other against each other. And it's kind of like, where is that rooted in? Is that rooted in a personal thing? Is that rooted in emotions? Is that rooted in a custodial dispute? And kind of like what conversations need to happen to kind of bridge that gap and make sure that like those kind of those walls are broken down to an order that like the child is at the forefront, and ultimately it's like the person that's going to be the most affected is going to be the one that's going to harbor these emotions.
Absolutely. As human beings, we all have two main needs. One is the need of safety, and the other is the need of belonging. So the need of safety is rooted in the masculinity. The need of belonging is rooted in femininity. So
Hmm.
now the question here is, do you feel fulfilled by both needs? When we are hurt, when we feel like I had always belonged to this person hurt me. Now, therefore, I have no sense of belonging anymore. I don't know where I belong. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know. I have to restart my life, whereas it should not have been this way.
Hmm.
Because sometimes one person of that marriage is feeling that way. Whereas the other person has made the decision, moved on, and it's clear the other person gets stuck into why did this happen to me?
And it's interesting you say that because I think it's around, I'm just trying to find the stat here of like, I think it's like 70 to 80% of divorces are initiated by the female. Does that
Mm-hmm.
sound right?
Yep.
And do you think 69% of all divorces, a Stanford study, was initiated by the female? So where why do you think that happens? And is that something that ultimately affects like the relationships? Like does that stat kind of say that it was more something that the male did and now he's kind of like it's a misunderstanding where he's like, "Oh, I'm doing everything perfect and like why is this happening to me?" And like I didn't want to get divorced.
So male are always been they of like centuries of time. They've always been hunters. They're the provider of the family. And female is that touch, if you will, of sense of belonging. Like, yes, you can always come to me. You always belong here. But what has happened in this modern society is men are pushed into provide, 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 and only a few choose to also honor themselves and grow themselves to the capacity of understanding who they are and what they like. Same goes for female. Female are driven by nurturing, by giving and providing someone else that sense of belonging. So if the female is feeling that this person is either not providing or giving them that sense of belonging back, and on top of it, we have this huge feminine power, powerhouse conversation right now as to women can do it all, and we're trying to prove that we can do it all. That is that is literally creating this false masculinity as to I have it all. I can do it all by myself. I don't need a man. Or I gave up my whole life for my family and I provided and I did all of those things. So therefore now you must pay me.
Yeah, they resent you now
On
in a
the other
way.
well, this is the thing, right? Like where we get stuck in our feminine and masculine energies and we're not balancing them out. Only that balance happen when we both sit and are willing to sit with each other and be like, okay, do you feel nurtured by me right now? Do you feel that I'm providing? Do we both feel that this is a harmony? Or is there a disconnect? Do I come home and I'm like, okay, I'm tired, I'm going to go golfing, or I have done it all and I have no interest in being intimate, right? Like the missteps and miscommunication happens when there's not enough conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You're not allowing yourself to be honest in sharing what you truly feel. Because we too sell ourselves these stories. Oh, you know what? He's so exhausted. He's so busy with work right now. Whereas the other person can be like, I feel so disconnected. I could really literally use a hug right now.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're living in two different scenarios in each other's heads. But no one is talking, no one is communicating what they want. It goes back to the idea we don't know what we want.
Right. That's interesting. It's interesting because a lot of these things you see at the forefront, but the busyness of work and getting goals accomplished and, caring for people and societal standards, it's like a lot of this stuff just gets kind of packed away and it kind of creates like this like pressure cap where eventually it's just like, oh, I've just let it fill so much where then it's just one simple outbreak and then the entire relationship or the entire problem is based on this like chaotic moment where it was something that probably could have been like broken down into some pieces where you could kind of nurture that in a way. One question I have to ask is based on your coaching experience, has there been like consistencies where you've seen like the motivations for divorce? Like, has there been some like big like factors where like you always see, and have there been like outliers which you never saw that would happen?
Infidelity is one.
Yeah.
Um, Another one is abuse.
Hmm.
Well, those are the obvious ones, right?
Yeah.
The less obvious ones, I would say, is the silent treatment,
Right.
or this beautiful phenomenon that is denial. That
The
you,
gaslighting.
yeah, well, gaslighting becomes a part of that abuse, if you will,
Right.
right? When you look at denial, it is from both ends. I'm not talking one end. Both ends are in denial that this is not working, but we are keeping it together for the sake of society, for the sake of our children, for the sake of whatever. But now I am literally saying to myself, what you're actually doing, you're telling yourself is, I don't matter. Everything else matters. I don't matter. So if you choose to listen to yourself at one point or another, there's going to come this period of time where your inner sides are going to scream, but I do matter.
Hmm.
And when it screams and is in your face, you've already built it up. And now
Right.
there's no way of coming back anymore.
Right. You took it to a 10.
You took it to 100.
Yeah. 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 Exactly.
You have been telling yourself, like, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And now it's not okay. It's enough.
Right.
So you have no more going back because you have already allowed yourself that behavior so many times that your inner self is screaming, like, if you allow that one more time, I am done. I'm going to make myself really, really heavy. And what happens? Okay, so here's this phenomena that I take my clients through, and I think it's important to mention it right now.
Hmm.
Is I believe we have 4 bodies. One is our physical body, the way we look. Second is our mental body, the way we think. Our emotional body, the way we feel. And as well, our spiritual body. As human beings, we should be very lucky if we get to our spiritual body, because we are so consumed with our physical, mental, as well as our emotional body. When you look at what are the top 5 emotions that you live day to day, and anyone can do this, divorce or not divorce, doesn't matter. All of your listeners can do this. What are the top 5 emotions I feel on a regular basis? If that top 5 is filled with anger, frustration, depression, anxiety, stress, then you know that these 5 emotions live in your body. And how do we get diseases? We get diseases by suppressing our emotions enough that we create a problem in our healthy bodies, because our bodies are so brilliant that it can create and disintegrate anything for you. So when your body loves you so much and you've been suppressing yourself over the years, and some issue shows up from your body, and it can be a mild health issue or can be a ginormous health issue. Your body loves you so much that it wants you to slow down and listen and actually stand up for yourself. So when you can align your thoughts with your emotions and your emotional body and your physical body, you're going to allow yourself the space to actually feel into all the things that you have not allowed yourself to.
Take me through one of your, now that we're talking about you being able to learn this language of coaching and getting the training, getting the mentorship, what does a session feel like from start to finish? What would you say, like, how do you take people on this journey?
Okay, so my clients are receiving completely different than what they think they come in for. So when someone comes in for divorce, I don't talk about divorce. What I focus on is you. Let's go through. What is the emotion that you're feeling? Oh, I'm okay. I'm okay. We have this mask on that we're okay. And if I take off that mask, we are literally afraid of breaking down. So the way that I work with my clients is I don't talk about it often. I'm like, okay, I'm going to put you in a meditative state. I'm going to put on the music, and I want you to close your eyes and feel all the things you feel. And I take them through different exercises, and I release the emotions, because as much as I am helping the coaching wise, I'm also an intuitive that can help release the shadows that we have carried every time. So the soul scene method is really truly talking about truly fully embracing all of you. So when I take my clients through the exercise, and we can do one here if you're open for it, that allows them to be recognizing, like, oh, okay, that's what I felt. That's what the story is. That's what the
Mm-hmm.
message is.
Mm-hmm.
And you get into a completely different way of life. And I have actually one of my clients, she's in her 60s. And she was like, Matina, I've worked with so many coaches. Nothing sticks. Nothing helps for me. And I don't know why I'm doing this, but I don't truly believe that this is going to help me either.
Just going through the motions.
But I have to do something, because if I don't do something, then I'm telling myself I gave up on me. So we did this intensive way of coaching for 3 months. You know what she told me, Ryan, at the end of 3 months? She was like, I never believed that this was possible. Now, some might ask, okay, what was the magic? What did you do? I'm going to argue that I did not do much. I stood by the vow that I'm going to love you as a guide. I'm going to stand by you. I'm going to honor you. I'm going to see you for all of you. And together, we're going to go through the dialogue and through whatever is showing up right now to release that, so that you feel lighter, so you come home to yourself, and so that you can actually say yes to this, no to that.
That's interesting. And talking about different age groups, when you see that like divorce rates rose at 45, tripled from 65 plus between 1990 and 2021, is there different strategies or adjustments that you have to take when helping someone through their rebuilding process, whether that be identity, finances, housing, parenting? How does that look?
Someone who decides to end a marriage where they have been married to this person oftentimes 40, 50 years of their lives is different than someone who decides to leave a marriage in their 30s. Because a person in their 30s still has a whole life ahead of them. The person in their 60s, they look at life from a different angle. Some of them desire love again, and others don't. Some of them are like, I really don't know what I want, and others are like, I am so happy I get to live life all over again. So you have to always meet where the client is and not make that wrong. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So coaching is oftentimes about meeting the person where they're at, taking them to the journey where they want to be or desire to be. It's not about making them wrong in any of those things. I'm not the person to decide if you should be stepping into another relationship or not. That's you.
Right.
Again, I'm the guide. I'm the guy that will take you through the steps and release that heaviness and allow you to ask better questions so that you can see a different perspective.
Right. And after these sessions, what do you think, based on your experience, what are some things that like your clients notice first after going through sessions?
So, lighter is one of them. They feel lighter. They feel like, oh, how come that happened? It never happened to me. So I have clients who are like, Martina, this pain completely disappeared. And I know we didn't work on this pain, but Why did that happen? Like, yeah, of course, if you're moving emotions, you're letting go of that heaviness inside of your body. So your body's going to be like, oh, let's take a deep sigh and let's work on healing this now.
Right.
And we all are emotional beings, Ryan. It doesn't matter if you've gone through a divorce or not. If you feel that you're not honoring yourself fully and completely, then there's a disconnect. If you feel that you're living 5 emotions on a daily basis, then there's your body screaming to you, like, please, please pay attention to this.
Right.
So asking yourself, what are those 5 emotions that I live almost on a daily basis? Where in my body are they hiding? What are they teaching me? What are they telling me? Those are the questions that you really want, because that will allow you to move those emotions out of you. And emotion is meant to move. It's an
Right.
emotion. It's not like stay with me and stick with me. It's like it's meant to move out of you.
Right.
Just like we can't be happy 24/7, we can't be sad 24/7 either. And it's oftentimes also is the way that we communicate. If you ask someone, "How are you?" they will always say, "I am," and then whatever. I oftentimes challenge my clients to say, "I feel." Not "I am," I feel. I feel happy. I feel sad. I feel depressed. I feel content. Whatever that emotion is. But when you say feel, it is allowed to move. When you say I am, it's an identity, and now your brain is like, oh, okay, so that's an identity. I'm going to hold on to that.
Mhm. That's really interesting, and the way that you're articulating it, it's again, I always come back to this of like it on like face value, it seems like such a simple thing, right? And how people and from any stage of life is is just like switching that focal point of like what am I actually trying to focus on? And your ability to articulate it stands out because you've taken these strides to then be a contributing author and starting a podcast. And I kind of want to talk about that for a minute. What kind of drove you into being a contributing officer in the Desi Divorcee?
Yeah, so Desi Divorcee is a book where 12 South Asian women came together and they shared their divorce story. And everyone has a different perspective of their own story. And we all felt actually very deeply in giving the world something that the women can hold on to at a time where they feel alone.
Mhm.
So, me writing a chapter in that book really was as to I'm serving someone who, like me, was stuck and has been contemplating and deciding if they should go through a divorce or not.
Right. And how did that come to be? Was that through launching your own podcast or was that through your coaching avenues?
Oh my gosh. So, a friend of mine actually promoted the person who was orchestrating this project. And when I saw that, I'm like, oh my God, that's a brilliant idea. And this is my second book. My very first book, again, well, this book, we did it with different authors as well. Wrote a chapter about my divorce in that as well. However, these books are meant to be resources. When I had no resource in my back pocket, I really truly want, and that was the idea of the project manager as well, this beautiful press agency that is helping people to write their books and putting them out there is to serve, nothing else than
Mhm.
serve, right? Like
Mhm.
the more we can give people a different perspective of life, the more they can come to their own conclusion. And Ryan, my chapter is not for everyone in the Desi Divorcee book, because I literally wrote it in a way where I reflected back as to my ex journey. I'm like, okay, I came from this journey. He came from that journey. So we were never going to jive. We were never going to come together in a way as to, this is going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And we were never communicating in that way either. So it's not to say that he failed or I failed. It's just to say that we were both not mature enough to come together and honestly put our cards on the table and be like, okay, this is what I do, or this is how I
Mm-hmm.
feel. And I'm saying this with so much more wisdom and knowledge now than I had at that time. Because if you had asked the Matina at that time, she would be like, what do you mean I didn't put my cards on the table? I put all my cards on the table. I tried so hard and I did this and I did that. But it's not about that. It is really not about that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So me, after 10 years sitting and reflecting on his journey, my journey, I can segregate it and I can see it for what it is. And I can even talk to my teen boys about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way that I approach with my boys is like, okay, you are now 14. Imagine in 2 years' time, I'm telling you to go abroad and study and also make money and send it back to me. You have
Mm-hmm.
no family around, you have no help around. You go figure it out. You're 16. It's okay. You're good. You're good enough. You'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
That was his life. Now, as a mom, I'm like, there's no way in hell I'm going to send my 16-year-old boy out anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
even going to send him in different cities, stand alone a
Yeah.
different country.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy. Talk to me about launching your podcast, because I think that's another key pillar of how you're creating these stories and creating these conversations that are kind of, again, giving people the framework of how to take that and take those tools. What was the motivation behind this, and what were some what were some ways that you were building it up, and what was your goal to contribute to a listening audience?
Mm-hmm. Honestly, the podcast has been coming to me 3 years prior for me to start it. And it was this idea. And I always told myself, this is an idea I have. I'm not going to do it. Who wants to listen to me? Who wants to hear what I have to say? It's okay. I'm not doing it. And I kept pushing it back, but the idea kept coming back. But not until I allowed my own intuition to deepen did I actually understand that it's not only an idea. It is a part of my mission that I'm meant to do. And it has nothing to do with Matina. It has to do with being of service to the larger community. And when I then last year decided, because it's been exactly a year since I launched my podcast, which is called From Loneliness to Overflow with Matina, I have had so many amazing conversations, Ryan. But it's always in this frame of allowing my guests to share their authentic story. What was their loneliness moment? What was their disconnection moment? How are they living the life that they're living right now? And how can they be that roadmap for someone else who's listening and hearing that roadmap as to, oh my God, that was painful.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always about authentically sharing the stories. And I do it alternatively. I have 1 week, I have a guest who shares their story, and 1 week I am sharing wisdom that is coming through me through my intuition. And even though I surprise myself from time to time, like, oh, that's an interesting way of saying that. I never
Mm-hmm.
thought about it that way. But that is the beauty when we are in tune with ourselves, our body, our mind, our emotions, our spirit. That is a portal of excellence, not perfection. We don't want perfection, we want excellence. So, my hope, my prayer for my podcast is to bring authentic stories and remain authentic myself so I can be a vessel of insight, a vessel of more love, more connection to humanity itself, where large community of people feel alone.
Right. Yeah, and I'm sure too you find as well that, like we even talked about earlier, was like the skills or the experiences that you learn through podcasting. It probably, you can see where it has this trickle down effect of like it starts to infect all of your other areas, and it's like it's not only benefiting like this section, I'm also becoming a better speaker, I'm also being able to articulate myself better, I'm also being able to hold these conversations and bring people through this journey, so then when I'm having these one-on-one coaching sessions, I'm able to have more lived in experience, I'm able to have more insight, I'm able to refine my approaches, where it's like the rising tide lifts all ships, right? And it's really really inspiring, because I think a lot of times it's 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 like we kind of talked about, where it's like understanding like what your motivations are and like what you're trying to be and what you're trying to identify as, because I think that's a thing where you kind of have to get out of your own way and say, hey, like, no, like this is what I'm actually trying to do, and like although like I'm skeptical about it, or I feel like this is going to look this way, or people are going to think of me this way, you kind of have to know, well, I have to trust my intuition. I have to trust my gut. And if I feel like it's a good thing, if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, it's a duck, right? And it's it's very awe-inspiring, and I'm so happy to have had this conversation. I think it have provided so much benefit to a myself, as just being able to hold this conversation and being able to get the wisdoms that you're sharing. But I also find that there are a lot of practical benefits from anybody at any age range, especially when you talk about the four bodies theory and, understanding oneself, and, being able to communicate and be transparent. And I think, again, like it's very simple, but it's something that people need to hear to put it at like the forefront of your mind. So I want to start off by saying thank you for that, because your wisdom is amazing, and I think you're going to do wonders in this space. Um, Bringing it back, I kind of want to know, as a male and as the predominantly male listeners that I have, when you look at the your experience in coaching females, and again, like we talked about, your coaching isn't limited to females, you do coach males as well. But when you talk about like people on the outside of that circle, whether that be a family member or a friend or a coworker or a brother or sister or something of that nature, what are some things that people need to do or stop doing that might be able to better help someone going through this supportive process?
I think, well, I'm gonna answer in a different way, because the people that we have around us love us, and they will say everything and anything to make you feel better. Oh, you're so right. He is such a whatever. Oh, she is such a whatever. And when we hear that, they are literally speaking to a part of us that is hurt. They are validating us and thinking they're doing a service to validate us. Whereas what we actually need is someone to sit down, hear the story, and be like, okay, where would you like to go from here now? What is next on your radar that you would love to focus on and put your heart and soul into? Is that fitness? Is that your career? Is that your children? What is it? Because so often, both sides, they fail to identify what is next for them. So, for anyone listening, male or female, Instead of hearing your loved ones holding you into this light of you are right, ask them to hold you in the light of what is next. And please do yourself a service of not stepping into a next relationship right away and actually giving yourself the time and space to feel the hurt, the grief, the pain that you are experiencing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Emotions are meant to move. And I thank you, Ryan, for highlighting how the whatever I'm sharing is landing, because it is my job to embody what I believe in. It is not the job of my children to embody that. It's not the job of my family members to embody that. It's not the job of my partner or future partner to embody that. It's my job to embody that. So if I am embodying something that I am resonating with, that I am welcoming, that I am ready for, only then can I bring a new perspective to the table. So it's important for everyone to acknowledge and identify, okay, where are we going to? What is the next thing that I'm going to pour my heart and soul into?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know, great. Now you have an opportunity of wealth right now in front of you. Even though you might not experience it as wealth, it is wealth, because not many people get to restart over again.
Mm-hmm.
You do. So choose. And if you need to get a coach, get a support system, get that support system in your corner. Allow that person to be that one to say to you, what's next? And friends and family members are often tinted by their own limitations. So
It's
if they're,
amazing.
yeah, they can't. They can't
Yeah.
understand you or your life. They have not lived it. You have. They can showcase to you or portray to you what their own belief systems are.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, you are the one saying yes or no to that belief system.
That's right. And perfectly going into what I have to tie this up is where 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 do you hope to be in the next 12 months? What does the next year look like for you? Anything exciting planned? Any big projects or goals that you have set in place that you're looking to reach in the next 12 months?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so excited. I'm currently working on this project where I'm creating pep talks for emotions. And they are somewhat like meditations, but they're not. They're literally pep talks for emotions. They talk and ask better questions to the emotion you're feeling, so that you get a framework of how you can work through that emotion and claim it as something you feel versus something you are. So that's one of the projects I'm very excited about. The other project I'm so excited about is to do more in-person speaking engagements. Serving is something that my soul has signed up for. And it doesn't matter if that's online through Zoom or through whatever platform we might use at that time, or if it's in person through a heartful conversation one on one, or in front of a huge stage where I get to share the wisdom through a panelist, through myself, through whatever. That is something I'm excited about. So I know that in the next 12 months, I'm going to have a retreat out there. I
Mm-hmm.
know I'm going to have my pep talks out there and speak from a different lens to emotions that the world has not completely seen or experienced yet. And that excites me, because looking at the same thing from a different lens gives you a completely different experience.
Where can people find you online or find your services or access you through social media?
So my website is matinasingh.com. And if you want to approach me through Facebook or through Instagram, on Instagram is Singh Matina. On Facebook is Coach Matina. And I'm on TikTok, YouTube. You can reach out to me if you want to ask a question. I would say Instagram or Facebook. Well, I'm going to say Instagram is the best platform to ask and reach out to
Yeah,
and just connect.
that's right. And don't forget to check out your podcast, um, Loneliness to Overflow with Matina, as well as check out Desi Divorcee, the Anthology. Um, yeah, amazing conversation, Matina. I thank you so much for coming on the show. And I'm so happy to have had this conversation. Uh, I hope we can touch base in the next 6 to 12 months and catch up on what you're doing and, pick up where we left off.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ryan. Wonderful conversation. And thank you for
Yeah.
holding space so gracefully.
Thank you very much. With the audience, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, share to someone you think needs to hear this conversation. Um, Spare Bedroom Studios on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Um, Liking, sharing, subscribing supports our channel and also helps us have conversations like these every week. With that, that has been episode 55 of Solo Spotlight.